My name is Lainey Leota, and I am the Fire Protection Market Manager for Lubrizol. I'm based out of Cleveland, Ohio, in the United States. Sean?
My name is, Sean Pierce. I'm the Fire Protection Business Development Manager with Lubrizol. I'm based out of Toronto, Canada.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. My name is Louis Mitrevsky, and I'm the Business Development and Training Consultant for Australia and New Zealand. I've been a consultant to Lubrizol since May this year and have worked over the construction industry for the last 12 years in Australia and also the UK.
And we'll go ahead and get started. First of all, we know that everybody has been in a lot of webinars and virtual training sessions and things like that these days. So we've tried to sort of shift the format a bit. Instead of presenting, we're going to have more of a conversation on the following topics. First of all, we're going to talk about just a bit about who is Lubrizol, what is BlazeMaster, what listings approvals does BlazeMaster have and where can it be used, why you would want to use BlazeMaster, a bit on how to install it, a bit about our compatibility program, and finally, where to buy. So with that, I thought I'd just start out before we really get into conversation with Louis and Sean, just about who is Lubrizol. And Lubrizol Advanced Materials is a specialty chemical company that is actually the BlazeMaster CPVC compounder. So what we do is we make the compounds in powder and pellet forms, and they're proprietary, and they're engineered specifically for fire sprinkler systems. So we then partner with a select group of manufacturers for BlazeMaster, namely being Johnson Controls or Tyco and Viking, and they are the ones that actually manufacture the pipe and fittings. So even though, we are here presenting about BlazeMaster pipe and fittings, we are not the ones that actually manufacture them ourselves. We have specialized partners in Johnson Controls and Viking who manufacture the pipe and the fittings, as well as the sprinkler heads and other devices that you use in a fire sprinkler system. So one of the best things about the Lubrizol BlazeMaster JCI Viking partnership is that you not only get the support of two world-class companies in Johnson Controls and Viking when you buy BlazeMaster, you get the support of Lubrizol as well. So you have that two sort of extra layers of support, and Lubrizol is a Berkshire Hathaway company, so you just have this there's a sense of confidence when you buy BlazeMaster from Johnson Controls and Viking that you're backed by three excellent, great companies. Part of our services that we provide not only to our manufacturers in JCI and Viking, but we also really try and deal a lot with the end user as well, being the contractors or the building owners or the engineers, etc. And we provide training, education, market development, and technical support everywhere around the world. Louis, who we have on the call here today, is our Australian and New Zealand contract representative that is more than happy to help anybody here on the phone or not on the phone today with all of your BlazeMaster needs. And not only do we provide the technical support and training, we continuously try and improve upon our product and expand the use of fire sprinklers and BlazeMaster across the world. This is just sort of a pictorial overview of who Lubrizol is and how we relate to JCI and Viking. Again, all of our compound and pipe and fittings is manufactured in the United States of America and then shipped over to Australia and New Zealand. So with that's sort of just the introduction to Lubrizol BlazeMaster in general. What I really wanted to start out by is by talking about what is BlazeMaster, and I think Sean, you're a great person to answer that question. If you could just go through what is BlazeMaster, why are we hearing about it now, and things like that.
Great, thanks, Lainey. So BlazeMaster is a non-metallic fire sprinkler pipe that's completely immune to corrosion. So in environments like Australia, New Zealand, where you have saltwater air and corrosion is an issue, you want your fire protection systems to last. And BlazeMaster, because it's chlorinated polyvinyl chloride, so it's PVC with an added chlorine molecule, is completely impervious to salt, which fundamentally makes up chlorine and chlorination. It's impervious to water treatment, chemicals, that like chloramines that are used to sanitize water. It provides a 50-year service life with a safety factor of 2. It's listed for all light hazard applications, and in certain situations you can get an alternative solution to use it in areas where they're very corrosive. So swimming pools and pump rooms for swimming pools and different areas like that where you have constant corrosion of metallic pipe. This is a type of application you can ask an AHJ to give you an extension on for BlazeMaster. It's better to have pipe that works in that environment than one that doesn't, and metallics unfortunately don't. It's been around since the 1980s. There's millions of feet of BlazeMaster installed around the world. It is, we know it's been used in Australia previously, and it's had a somewhat warm welcome, but then had some issues. And you know, Louis part of our team now to help us resolve any issues you might have. Like anything that's new in the market, people will face challenges when they install new products, and you know, BlazeMaster, I'm sure will you know, you may have challenges with, but we're equipped to deal with those. The common use that we see for BlazeMaster elsewhere in the world is the high-rise residential market, care facilities, the low-rise residential market, mid-rise residential market. That's the common uses. We are listed because it's all light hazard. We're starting to see things like schools become more prevalent with the price of steel being so high, auditoriums, theater-type buildings, churches, you know, hospitals fall into that as well. It's the perfect pipe to be used in an MRI room where the magnet can't have any disturbance or disruption from metallic piping, and BlazeMaster fits in really well there. So it's a long service fire sprinkler pipe that's completely impervious to corrosion, and it's got, you know, we've tested 30-year-old pipe, and it performs the same as the pipe that went in the day it was installed. So there's a lot of good backing and a lot of support around it, and where you use it is only limited really by your imagination and what you're trying to protect.
And we'll go over the specific approvals and certifications that BlazeMaster has in a second. But I want to go back to one thing that you said, Sean, and you mentioned, you know, chlorinated PVC. And I think that there a lot of times, not so much in more mature markets like the United States, but in newer markets that are newer to BlazeMaster, you know, people are familiar with PVC and PEX for plumbing. What is the difference between BlazeMaster CPVC and PVC? You know, could you just use any PVC to pipe a fire sprinkler system?
So no, you can't, Lainey, and the reason for that is the added chlorine molecule in BlazeMaster that makes it CPVC, chlorinated polyvinyl chloride, also gives it its inherent fire resistance capability. So it is a combustible product, but it's not a flammable product. In order for it to maintain a flame, you have to have 60% oxygen in the atmosphere. Whereas PVC and other plastic pipes, once they're ignited, they will continue to burn, and they don't self-extinguish the way CPVC does. So it has, the CPVC allows it to be used with hotter liquids, so hot water. So it's good for potable water as well, and it has a potable water rating in Canada and the U.S. And it is, because it's, while combustible, it's not flammable. It allows us to pass the UL test for to be used as a fire sprinkler pipe product in North America and really around the world as well.
And I think right there is a good opportunity to show some UL testing that we did with BlazeMaster. I'll just share my screen quickly here again. And this video does not have sound, so you shouldn't be able to hear anything. All it is just music. But as long as you can see, you should be good. So I will.
So the video Lainey's showing you here, 1821, this is our exposed basement listing and the most challenging listing for non-metallic fire sprinkler pipe. The fire is on a T in between two sprinkler heads, so you don't get rapid activation of the sprinkler head, and it really pushes the pipe to its limit. It's exposed, so there isn't a sealing trapping heat to activate the heads quickly. The temperature is upwards of 800 degrees, and that's at 60% limiting oxygen index that allows it to be self-extinguishing or non-flammable.
Great. Thanks, Sean, for providing a bit of narration on that. So now that everyone knows sort of how BlazeMaster works, how it performs in a fire, saw a little bit of its testing that we did at United Laboratories. Louis, why don't you take us through what approvals BlazeMaster CPVC has?
Yeah, absolutely, Lainey. So BlazeMaster CPVC has been used in Australia for over 30 years now, and it is specifically engineered and approved for, as Sean said, all the light hazard applications and some ordinary hazard 1 applications, as defined by the AS 2118.1, which is the automatic fire sprinkler system, general system. And that's for Australia, and for New Zealand, the NZS 4541. We're also approved as per the 2118.4, which is accommodation buildings not exceeding 4 stories, the 21185 home systems, and also the New Zealand equivalent, the 4517. Also approved by the 4118.2, which is the fire sprinkler piping, the plumbing and drainage standard, the 3500, but also the FPAA 101H, which is supplied by Hydrant Water Supply, and also the 1477, which is the PVC pipes for pressure applications. Further, BlazeMaster CPVC pipe and fittings are also listed and approved to UL 1821, FM 1635, and also the NSF International 61. So a lot of standards, but
the watermark. Does BlazeMaster have watermark? I mean, I know it's approved for use for potable water in the United States through NSF, but what about for Australia?
Yeah, so it has potable water listings in the US and the UK, as well as other countries, and we're in the process of getting watermark for Australia and New Zealand. It'll probably take a few months, but hopefully towards the start of 2022, we should have that approval for this region.
Great. So, I mean, Louis, you mentioned, and Sean, you guys both mentioned some different applications where it can be used. But, Louis, I'd like to hear from you where, and specifically in Australia, that you see this used mainly, maybe some projects that you're working on. And then I'd also like to hear from Sean where he's seen BlazeMaster be used globally.
Yeah, so in Australia, obviously the hottest BlazeMaster projects are apartment buildings, retirement and nursing homes as well, and we also have used it in some office blocks. So we mentioned that BlazeMaster CPVC can be used in all light hazard occupancies and some ordinary hazard occupancy. So what that includes and what that means is it's basically apartments, offices, hospitals, places of worship, student accommodation buildings, libraries, aged care facilities, which is very popular in Australia, medical centres, prisons, schools, colleges, universities, the residential portions of hotels, motels also. So we work with engineers and contractors on a variety of different projects across the board nationally. So what I would say to people is, if you're not sure whether BlazeMaster is the right fit for the project that you're working on, Just reach out to us and we would be happily to work with you through all the details.
Great, thanks so much, Louis. And Sean, you've been in the industry for several years. I have on the screen here just some examples of where BlazeMaster has been used globally and some of the savings it's provided to both the contractors and the building owners. But would you mind going through some of the experiences you've had with BlazeMaster on a global scale?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Lainey. So, I mean, you see Notre Dame, so that's a university, it's a residence hall. That's that concept of residential. The school in Colorado, we're seeing schools, high schools, starting to be sprinklered in North America, and BlazeMaster is the perfect fit. The offshore oil complex, again, high salt water, high salination issues. The environment that piping is being run in, steel pipe just doesn't survive. Even if it's galvanized, BlazeMaster gives you an advantage there. We're seeing it used, that Chapel Wharf, that's a high-rise residential building, but we're also seeing it being used as supply mains under piers, again, in saltwater applications. You're really not limited. Hotels, motels, as Louis said, we're seeing banquet facilities that are being retrofitted with sprinklers. Retrofit's a real win with CPVC. It's lightweight. It has far fewer disruptions to the occupancy while the retrofit's going on. The inherent flexibility of the pipe allows you to maneuver it around without cutting and threading and having machinery and extension cords all over the place. It's a much simpler product to install, much faster per joint per joint. It's about 42 seconds to do solvent cement a single joint at CPVC, and it's probably close to 3 minutes to groove, maybe 5 minutes to thread a pipe, and then get it inserted into a fitting. So it's if you're looking at retrofit opportunities, it is really inherently built for that. When you're looking at occupancies that have consistent occupancy, there isn't a big changeover of occupancy. BlazeMaster is a fantastic option. When you change over, metallic pipe can sometimes have an advantage for taking it apart and relocating it. You don't have to cut it up. One of the ways to get around that with BlazeMaster CPVC is to use flexible drops, which will give you a little more leeway with BlazeMaster than you may have had before. And then we're seeing it being used embedded in concrete in Canada here for high-rise residential projects. It can only be embedded in cast-in-place concrete, you can't use it in post-tension. So again, as I said before, it's really, if it's light hazard, you can use it. There's always conditions and things to think about when you use it, but it's the environment that you guys all live in and the salination that you're dealing with in the air, it's going to give you a huge advantage for fire protection.
Sean, where would you say globally, where is the sweet spot for BlazeMaster, and why obviously the incumbent product is steel, copper. Why did it start being used here in the US and Canada over its metallic competitors?
Well, you know what? So it has this inherent flexibility. So when you're in residential, which it really is we call it the sweet spot because we really dominate the residential market. It gives you, on our smaller dimension pipes, our interior dimensioning is larger than PEX. So you get better flow rates. Our 1-inch pipe has a 1-inch ID, whereas PEX, it's closer to 3/4 inch. So you're getting way better flow rates when you're installing CPVC over PEX in residential. That's the first thing. The second thing is you're going to bury it in a wall and never go back and look at it again. And so steel corrodes, and we're seeing steel rust now in 8 years, 9 years, and we're having pinhole leaks, which means repairs. Nobody wants to go into a $500,000 condo, rip walls out in as little as 10 years because of pinhole leaks. So our durability against water. Fundamentally, we put water in a pipe that begins to corrode immediately. CPVC, BlazeMaster CPVC's durability against that corrosion has made it a very reliable choice in residential construction. You can transfer that, of course, to every other type of construction, but residential for sure seems to be where people have gravitated towards using it. So you have better flow rate when you're designing. You have a better C factor than steel, which is how the water flows through the pipe. And BlazeMaster, because it's impervious to corrosion, has a 150 C factor, whereas steel starts at 120 and degrades over time. It's constantly, the ID of steel pipe is constantly getting smaller, whereas BlazeMaster stays that same 1-inch ID on 1-inch pipe and never changes. So it is where we've ended up, and it is where people seem to be most comfortable using us. But if you take all those benefits that I just talked about, it really has an application in anything light hazard. It's just getting people to understand the issues they're having and how BlazeMaster can help solve them.
Speaking of which, Louis, I know that you've dealt with both some engineers and some contractors that have installed BlazeMaster in Australia. What is the general feedback from them? What is the general feedback from them? Have they liked it? What are some of the good things about it? Is there anything that they struggled with?
Yeah, well, we've been talking to a lot of contractors over the last 6 months, and the feedback we're getting is very positive from the people that are using it. And not only do they find BlazeMaster easy to install, using the product on projects for them has been proven to offer some very good margin benefits. So that's the biggest and the most exciting things from the contractors that are currently using BlazeMaster. But yeah, there's been a lot of retrofitting in aged care facilities over the last 5 years, and contractors just fly through those projects like there's no tomorrow. Because they install it quicker, obviously there's some very good margin improvements on the total project costings, if you would like.
Great, that's good to hear that you guys are having, similar experiences to that of the United States, Canada, and the rest of the world. One thing in particular to Australia, I had a question about was, CPVC or BlazeMaster versus PEX. I know with the development of 101H and 101D and those new regulations that require fire sprinklers in level 2 and 3 buildings, I believe it is, Louis?
That's right.
Or class 2 and 3 buildings, that contractors have the option to use 101H or 101D. Granted, we're working on getting watermark approval in order to be used in those 101D applications, but what I've heard, through talking to you and through JCI and Viking, is that when some contractors are considering the use of PEX in 101D. And I wanted to talk a bit about, Sean, I think you have some experience because PEX was sort of used in Canada and parts of the US for fire sprinkler systems, but how does BlazeMaster compare to PEX for fire sprinkler systems in particular?
So we talked about the ID difference. So PEX has a smaller ID for the same.
Can you just specify what is ID?
Interior dimension. So the interior dimension of PEX is smaller. The pipe wall thickness is thicker, and so it has a smaller ID interior dimension than BlazeMaster does. Because of that, you've got to run multi-port head adapters behind the sprinkler head adapter. So you feed a sprinkler head with PEX with 2, sometimes 3 lines, unless you get up to 1.5 inches PEX, at which point BlazeMaster is actually a smaller pipe and easier to install. The inherent flexibility that people claim with PEX, when you get up to 1.5 inches PEX, it really isn't flexible at all. You still need 90s and 45s and Ts. You have to use all the same fittings that you would in any other, with any other installation. And so people still talk about flexibility with PEX, but it's really not there. There's also a tremendous amount of waste with PEX because every fitting you put in is a weak point, and the fittings don't have the same memory that PEX talks about. that the fittings have. And so any small pieces of pipe you end up with are often thrown away, and so there's a lot of waste with PEX systems installing them in fire protection. With BlazeMaster, even a 1 foot piece, you can put it in a box and you can take it to the next job and you can use it for drops. You can use it because of how it's installed. You can use it for just about anything. So there's actually very little waste with BlazeMaster, whether you use it on the job you're on or the next job, or whether it's in the unit you're in or the next unit or whatever the case is. That often the offcuts can be used elsewhere, and that's a lot more difficult with PEX. The other thing is most plastic pipes aren't treated to protect themselves from UV, and PEX is inherently, it has basically an agent in it to protect it, to try and protect it from UV. But as it's exposed to UV, that agent wears out, and PEX becomes more and more brittle and more susceptible to damage. It's also not rated for use with chlorinated water, which is how most places sanitize their drinking water. CPVC, on the other hand, while we don't have a UV protectant in our pipe, the pipe might discolor a little bit from exposure to UV, but the performance of the pipe doesn't change at all. And so, when you go to install in any building, the pipe is going to be on the ground, or it's going to be on a rack or a cart somewhere. It's going to be exposed to light and other things. The reality is that BlazeMaster is just that much more durable than PEX as well in that environment. You want to be careful with your fire sprinkler pipes and fittings, and you want to make sure that you've looked after everything so you don't have any potential issues with it. But there's definitely an inherent strength with CPVC that PEX doesn't have, and a lot of people aren't talking about some of these issues with PEX. Where it has widespread use in the plumbing industry, and there's no doubt about it. But we're now 15 to 20 years post our first PEX installations around the world, and we're starting to see the deterioration of PEX and its exposure to chlorine and different things like that, and the spider cracking and the leaking happening as well.
You mentioned one thing when you were talking, Sean, about how the joints are a weak part of PEX, right? And
Yep.
It's actually very interesting because the joints are actually the strongest part of the BlazeMaster system. Can you go into why that is, and then perhaps show us how to join a BlazeMaster system?
I can't show you from where I am right now, but I can go through it. So the reality is you solvent weld BlazeMaster pipe and fittings together to create a single system. And so that's how you're able to install it embedded in concrete, because anything you embed in concrete or put under slab has to be a single run of pipe. With CPVC, with BlazeMaster, once you solvent weld the pieces together, you get a single unit of piping. And the joints, or the connection points, where you connect pipe and fittings together, you have the wall thickness of the pipe plus the wall thickness of the fitting. So we pressure test BlazeMaster on a regular basis for quality assurance, and the pipe will generally fail between 1650 and 1700 psi. The fittings never fail. They would go well in excess of 2000 psi before you'd see an issue with them. PEX just isn't capable of doing that. The fittings are expanded. They can back off. There's issues with them. They use the concept of inherent flexibility of the pipe to try and avoid putting fittings in, whereas our fittings just add strength. The BlazeMaster fittings just add strength to the system. They don't deteriorate the system in any way. To do a BlazeMaster fitting, Lainey asked me to demo, but I'm in Calgary, Alberta right now, and so not as easy to do demos as I'd like to. But the trick is to cut the pipe squarely, to bevel and deburr the pipe. And the importance of beveling is so that when you put the pipe into the fitting, the cement will ride up the pipe wall rather than get pushed into the fitting and affect the waterway in any way. So cut the pipe squarely, because as Lainey said, that solvent weld is critical. You want a full surface of pipe inside the fitting to get a good solvent weld. If you cut the pipe on an angle, you lose a portion of that solvent cement area. Bevel again for the solvent cement to move the right way. Insert the pipe into the fitting, turn a quarter turn, and you're done. The biggest trick is solvent cement is a tool like any other tool. It's like your cutting tool. It's like anything else. It is a chemical welding adhesive. It's not really an adhesive. It's a chemical welding process. So it softens the wall of the pipe, softens the interior wall of the fitting, and when you put them together and it finishes off gassing, the cement starts to off gas the chemicals that soften. There's 10% pipe material inside that cement to fill in all the gaps that are left, and you get a solid unit. You get one piece of material rather than two separate pieces. I hope that makes sense. It literally is the fastest connection in fire protection. My history is in the fire service and as an AHJ and code official, and I can do a solvent joint in 42 seconds. So I know fitters all over the world are far better equipped to do it than I am. So my guess is they're probably a little quicker than that.
And so speaking of, quick install and being able to join CPVC easily, I wanted to talk a little bit about, what does the CPVC joining process or BlazeMaster process look like versus steel? Louis, could you elaborate on some of those differences?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Sean mentioned it, the corrosion, no corrosion with CPVC. The longer system lifetime is a huge benefit over steel. Lower maintenance costs. So after the contractor leaves, someone's got to maintain the building, and it offers some very good savings to the building managers. No annual internal inspections like with metallic pipe. Doesn't corrode in transport. Or, most of the materials we get in Australia are imported and they're on ships for a very long time. Steel will corrode, being exposed to salt air over a month or a couple of weeks shipping. So good, obviously good for use in salt air environments. But the main thing is it also saves a lot of money, labour, material cost. So we've got a case study that our colleagues have done in the UK where they've demonstrated that using BlazeMaster over CPVC saves contractors about 20%, which is a huge amount, especially in this very competitive business environment. So yeah, huge benefits over steel, but also from a contractor point of view, moving the product around on construction sites is CPVC is very different to steel. Steel is heavy, harder to store, harder to stack. If you need to cut steel, usually there's sort of designated areas where cutting is done on a site. So moving the pipe around construction sites is easy if you choose to go with BlazeMaster, and you don't have to go to designated cutting areas. You can just cut it on the spot. So all in all, huge cost savings, but way easier to maneuver and install on construction sites.
Yeah, so just to sorry, Lainey, just to kind of build off of what Louis said, so if you have to thread a piece of steel pipe or you have to groove a piece of steel pipe, you've got to come down off your ladder. You've got to go to wherever your groover or threading machine is. It's going to be in an area that you have to keep clean. With CPVC, you can actually cut that piece of pipe with a wheel cutter in air, working on your ladder. You can bevel and deburr it with a hand tool. Legitimately, if you had a tool pouch on, you'd have some kind of tool for cutting the pipe in one pocket. You'd have a bevel deburring tool in another pocket and a can of cement, and that's all you need. You can continue to work up on that ladder. If you had a box of fittings and pipe hung in the air, you almost never have to get down off your ladder. You just keep working along in series. It's cleaner for sure, and as we're seeing more exposed concrete floors in office buildings and different places like that where they polish them rather than carpeting or something else, the use of CPVC is just a good logical choice. Louis, I don't know how much wood or timber dimensional lumber construction is happening, but we've got composite wood buildings going up in North America now, and so they have a full wood structure with a concrete base on top where all the utilities are run. You could embed CPVC in that lightweight slab and punch holes through and put your heads to the floor below. No hanging pipe, no black steel hanging below. Everything's concealed. It's the only product really you can use to do that. So again, when I talk about it, your imagination is the limit. It truly, truly is.
Thanks, Sean. So one thing that we haven't mentioned yet that I definitely wanted to address is compatibility. Excuse me. Before I take the opportunity to go a bit through our FDC system compatible program, Sean, would you mind just talking a bit about compatibility and how compatibility relates to BlazeMaster?
Yeah, thanks, Lainey. So Lubrizol has what's called the FBC program. It's our compatibility program. A lot of people avoid compatibility. We try and address it up front. And so that's given us an advantage in the marketplace. But unfortunately, some people like to use that as a negative, and it really isn't. Even concrete has chemical compatibility issues. If something were to get into a mix of concrete, a building could fall down. So chemical compatibility exists across all construction materials without fail. What we try and do is say, okay, we acknowledge chemical compatibility. We know that it can be an issue. And so we developed the FBC program. F is for FlowGuard Gold, our potable water pipe. B is for BlazeMaster. C is for Corzan. That's the name of the program, is defined by the names of our three products. It's very straightforward. And the program can be used on any one of those three products. In the case of Australia and New Zealand, it'll only be BlazeMaster for now. But it's a three-siloed program. It has products that are compatible, products that are not compatible, and then the center silo is other topics where you can learn about painting CPVC, polyurethane foam installation around BlazeMaster. There's a whole gamut of questions that we've answered and added to the other topics section. So one of the big differences between our program and everyone else's is that it's third-party administered. So it's not a time test. We don't take a piece of pipe, put it in a jar with some of the potentially incompatible product. We do stress testing and add material to the pipe while it's under stress. We also, the third party NSF, takes the other product and ours and does a full chemical analysis of the two to see how they fit together and to make sure that they're not incompatible with each other forever, not just for 60 days or 90 days, but that full chemical analysis is a lifetime analysis. You know that you will never have a compatibility issue with those two products for the life of the building. The other big difference is that our products, that the people who sign up to be part of the program, their products they have to submit a document to NSF, not to us, but to NSF every year with any changes they make to their product. So you can see, we will be able to know if they've made an ingredient change in a product that changes its compatibility with our BlazeMaster pipe. So it's not a one and done process. It's a lifetime of always checking and making sure we have compatibility with the products on our list, and that nobody gets caught unawares or off guard. It is without a doubt the most elaborate construction material compatibility program in the market.
And one thing I want to note, with us being kind of more newly active in Australia and New Zealand, is right now there are a lot of American manufacturers or products that are used in North America on the program, on the list of compatible products. Just because a product is not listed on the list of compatible products does not mean that it is not compatible with BlazeMaster. As Sean mentioned, there other parts of our website, aside from the compatible product finder tool, where it gives you a list of products that we have found to be incompatible with CPVC. Or with BlazeMaster CPVC. And then even if the product that you're looking for is not on those two lists, there's a third list called other compatibility topics, and it goes through and gives you guidance per each classification of product, whether it's a firecock, whether it's paint, as Sean mentioned, a mold inhibitor, etc., and tells you what to look for in the technical data sheet or the SDS that of that product to make sure an ingredient within that product is not known to be incompatible with BlazeMaster. That said, I wanted to mention that because, as we try to grow our support and our presence in Australia and New Zealand, we do realize that there are different sort of ancillary products or brands that you guys may be more accustomed to using that are different from here in the US and Canada. If you are coming into, if you continuously come into contact with a certain product that you would like to see on our compatibility program listed as compatible so that there's no questions around it, please reach out to Louis and notify him that, you would really like to see this product added to our compatibility list, and he can work with the manufacturer of that product to go through the proper testing, etc., to get it added to our list. So please, again, don't hesitate to reach out with suggestions. And if you have any questions, as always, not only about compatibility, but in general, you can email us or email Louis, and we're all happy to support. So one thing that Sean didn't mention, but that I just wanted to touch on briefly, is there is one other fire sprinkler CPVC brand in the market. And as Sean said, we, as Lubrizol, have the most robust, the oldest, we invented compatibility program as it relates to CPVC. We have the most robust, complex compatibility program in the industry in the world. And our compatibility program only applies to BlazeMaster. It does not apply to other brands or the other brand of CPVC for fire sprinkler systems, or any other brand of CPVC, regardless of the end use, be it plumbing, industrial, etc. So that's one really important thing to understand is, we cannot speak to the compatibility of a product for another manufacturer of CPVC. Our program addresses BlazeMaster and Lubrizol brands of CPVC only, and it's something that we take great pride in ourselves for. It's a reason why JCI and Viking have such confidence in us. We take it very, very seriously, and our third party approver does as well, and we're always willing to help and alleviate some concerns or answer questions whenever possible. But I definitely encourage you to check out www.fbcsystemcompatible.com and check out that website. There's some great trainings on just compatibility in general so that you can learn more about it. You can share it with your GCs, your building owners, etc., so that they understand a bit better. But then you can also look to make sure, so the ancillary products on the construction site that you're using are compatible with CPVC or with BlazeMaster, I'm sorry. One other thing, just sort of in relation to compatibility, and as I said, Lubrizol takes this very, very seriously. I wanted to go over some of the tools that we have available and just kind of go over some best practices to ensure that compatible products are being used across the job site by different trades and things like that. So I was wondering, Sean, if you could go over that for us.
So when you talk about tools, you're talking about our FBC tools?
Or just, how to ensure some best practices to ensure that compatible product is being used on a job site.
Yeah, so one of the first things I would suggest is on the websites, on our partners' websites, you can download a job post, like a poster that you can put up on job sites to help everybody understand compatibility better. I think it's important that those get used. I would submit them with your bid documents as well, so that whoever you're bidding the job to knows you understand chemical compatibility and you're just stepping out in front of it rather than trying to catch up to it. Those job site notifications, I would post them near buck hoist elevators or washrooms, somewhere where people are going to congregate on a job site. The use of our app, we have an FBC app. I know Lainey kind of talked about it a little bit. You put that app on your phone. If you see somebody, it's often a different trade that does fire stopping. If you see them and you see a tube of fire stop and you're concerned about it, you can look and see if the FBC logo is on it, or you can just open the app, check the app for that product and get a sense of whether it's compatible or not. We get a lot of phone calls on a regular basis. You know, you've got Louis in New Zealand and Australia. Reach out to him. Use him as a resource. He can check, you know, back with us in North America. We'll do whatever we can to get you an answer quickly. Our biggest resource really, I think, is our people and how well versed they are in the installation of BlazeMaster and chemical compatibility. And we're a team. You know, if Louis can't get me, there's Lainey, and if he can't get Lainey, there's someone else. There's always a way for us to work together and support each other, and that's, I think, a unique model that we have with our territory managers. They're not salespeople because we don't fundamentally sell anything. They're territory managers that are there, you know, designed to support everybody in the industry using material. And so, you know, and if it's not me, it's John Pritchard, who, you know, you guys don't know his name, but he's another technical manager on our team. And if it's not John, it's someone else. And then the whole team in Brecksville, all of our R&D chemists and scientists and our code staff, all resources that are available to anybody using our product. You've got, you know, if you can't get Louis, there's a way to reach out to us via our website by typing in a question on our website, and that question will get funneled to myself or one of the other technical people on the team very quickly, and we'll get back to you if Louis is on vacation. You know, so the resources that we've built and developed are designed to make people using BlazeMaster have peace of mind and make the installation as worry-free as possible.
In addition, Sean, I mean, as I mentioned at the beginning, there's also the support behind Tyco and Viking, whoever's product that you're using. You can always reach out to your local rep for either of those companies as well. So, you know, there's just a lot of support behind BlazeMaster. And then sort of to wrap things up, I know we have about 10 minutes left, you know, mentioning JCI or Tyco and Viking. Louis, can you tell us a bit about where you can buy BlazeMaster and also just sort of what your job entails versus, you know, what would you go to a Tyco or a Viking rep about versus you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Start with that first and then go to where you can buy it.
Absolutely. So yeah, look, the Viking and the Tyco reps know BlazeMaster well. However, they have an array of other different products that they look after. With me, the difference is I specialize in BlazeMaster. So, you know, when it comes to the technical side, the codes, the compliance, any other questions that the, you know, the Tyco and the Viking reps can't answer, I'm here to answer and also support the Tyco, JCI or Viking people. So I'm here as that additional extra layer of support, but at the same time, I'll be working and I'm working closely with engineers and designers in order to create specification, create more demand, so this lovely product, you know, gets used in Australia way more than it is used right now. And in terms of where you can get BlazeMaster, Tyco and Viking have distributors around Australia. I'll name a few of them. Drillcut is one of them, and also Antec for Australia, and Harrison Bloy in New Zealand. So you know, all these companies have multiple warehouses across the nation. So if you reach out to them, you know, they can get the product for you. And if you don't know where to get it from, and if you need more information, feel free to reach out to me, and then I'll reach out to the guys, to the distributors, and we'll make it happen. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's how it works in Australia.
All right, it looks like we got to all of the questions, fortunately. I wanted to thank everybody again for joining us this morning, and really appreciate you spending time with us. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to Louie or any of us on the phone. We also have a shared inbox. It's BlazeMaster Oceania at lubrizol.com that you're welcome to email. We also have an Australia, New Zealand specific website. If you just go to blazemaster.com and choose Australia, all the resources that you need are there too. But with that said, we hope you have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week, and a safe holiday as we move into the holiday season. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.